I'm not even sure I can believe this myself. We're on episode 9 of 100 tips and tricks. Specifically for this one, I'm pointing out everything and anything related to game sense. This is quite possibly one of the hardest type of tips to give out because the only real way you get these kind of things is simply the boring way of kind of learning and applying what normal players do in certain situations. So like I said, this video, you're practically going to learn everything I know about game sense. Oh, so there's... My name's KenBeans. I'm sure there's going to be at least one thing in here you haven't heard before, or maybe even some you forgot about. But first, the sponsor on this channel yet again is Buff. I'm here to introduce it to you guys. If you never heard about it before, it's a place where you can redeem lots of different items like Steam cards, Xbox cards, PlayStation cards, and other things like gaming hardware, all for free. So once you download it, you leave it running in the background and you can play your favorite game. You earn Buff points while playing these games, and we're talking about Valorant, Dota 2, PUBG, Fortnite, and of course, even a new one that was just added was Minecraft. Honestly, the reason why I like it is because it brings you extra challenges on the game. So if video games ever get boring, you just download Buff and there you go. It's completely safe. It's an authorized app of Overwolf and does not affect any gameplay while you're playing. I tried it out multiple times. It's super easy to set up, no hassle at all. All you got to do is click the link in the description down below, and anyone who uses my link gets an extra 30 points during the month of March on top of the 30 points that were also free from Buff. So altogether you get 60 points. Feel free to click the link in the description to check it out. So I asked my acquaintance, not even my friend, Rody Bros, as the best player in the world, what's one thing a controller player should never do? Maybe a setting or a bind they forgot, literally anything. He says one thing they should never do, watch one of your videos. I don't like this guy. I do not. Whenever I approach a box in Fortnite with the high ground, I always place 2 stairs around their box. When you only place 1, they know exactly where you're going to end up. In my opinion, when you place 2, it's just a better way of handling it. In the blimps in Chapter 2, there's a lot of sliding doors that open automatically. Anytime the doors are not closing, there's a player on that other side. The way to save a sinking car. I'm not sure where this got originated from or when. Whenever you're driving across water and you're going deep out into it, one of the best things you can do is when you realize the car is sinking, quickly hop out and hop back in. It essentially brings the car to the top since you got out, and you can get back in and keep driving. This is one really useful strategy to save you from being dead in the water. At any point in time on Fortnite, whenever you use your glider, you can mantle off that. It's very useful to know, especially when you mistime your drop just a little bit, you can mantle onto the ledge to get up to where you need to be. How does a keyboard player zoom in and out of the map when they're inside a box and they have scroll wheel reset on? In case you guys aren't realizing the problem, if you're not a mouse and keyboard, you can't scroll up and down while having scroll wheel reset enabled. What I do in the beginning of the clip was show you what I'm talking about. Every time you try and zoom in, it takes you out and resets edits. If you go to the back corner of the box, you look up in this direction, you can look at the map and you'll be good to go. This right here is game sense I developed against aggro players all the time. I'm build fighting them. I got a cone above him, so I edit the cone to try and go for a shot, but he places the wall. The move that I'm talking about is after he placed those, I jump onto a stair and hold the edit in reverse. This is because whenever he's going to edit that wall, he's going to have his map out, which is going to make me get the first shot. I run right at his face, and this is something that works really well in this situation. Not every time on Fortnite, when you turn around, you place a cone on your head. Sometimes I jump up, place the cones over my walls just like this, and then go in for the piece and the kill. You need to learn thrivo cones, but don't be so antsy to use them. At any point in time in Fortnite, you use the natural pillars and anything around you as right-hand peak. Whatever it is, just get used to hiding behind things in rhythm as you play. Notice how I'm prioritizing using the builds I have to block off the opponent and then get the gun. Thinking about game sense, always try to use anything you have like you're going to use it to win the whole thing. The second you think you're out of it, you're out of it. I opened an edit against a sweaty player to get a wall shoved in my face. If I pause it for a second, game sense, what would you guys do in this situation? I got pieced so fast, what I did was shoot through the build that he edited, because anytime you edit something, it's always weak. Once I shot, I tried to build and edit out to escape. Sometimes you got to use your guns in situations like this, because if I used my pickaxe, I probably would have been dead by the time it pulled out. Anytime you got those campers that are stuck in buildings, I use the sprinting feature to run through the building as fast as I can, because I'm a little impatient. But it actually does work. It's not really a stupid play. Now more than ever in the new season, you can get really good at just straight up reading players more than building. Having the combat SMG in your hands and then waiting for the sweat to just do some sort of piece control is the easiest counter in the game. I don't know what's going on with nerfing and buffing guns. Fortnite has transitioned over to SMGs, quite literally being the best weapon to use in close-up fights. I'm sure you yourself has lost lots of confidence in the shotties doing consistent damage. So this tip, start getting used to piece controlling people and using your SMG instead. It's more consistent and it kills way faster if you're just going to straight up 50-50 someone. Do yourself a favor and start using the thermal AR. The gold and mythic rarities are quite literally insane, and it almost feels like you're cheating. The easiest way to develop and learn game sense sense is to think what the enemy would be thinking while you're looking at them. The most common example of this I can think of is sneaking up to someone, dropping down on a player's wall to grab it as you're falling. This is one of the best things to do to take someone off guard. How do you heal when you get cracked? Everyone knows that you got to use your heals before you die and not 50-50, but you need to know how to do it properly, otherwise you can't do it. Practice doing this at whatever speed you can, doesn't matter. Always do floors first, then walls, then stair, edit, and repeat. This right here is a must-learn move. This is how pros escape fights and get people to run through their tarp all the time. Game sense is as follows. You tarp away, you heal like a good Fortnite player, but don't do it in a straight line forever. Turn the corner so they have a harder time of finding you as you're running away, so it sets you up for better angles and makes you a little harder to find. You can develop as much game sense as you want, but you need to have your mechanics at a certain level before you can really advance in the game sense category. So if you're not that cracked at the game, don't think that mastering game sense will turn you into a goat. You need to work on the mechanics side of Fortnite, and then you can constantly revisit the game sense side, and eventually you're gonna get to that really top tier level. Super heads up, broken play. I bet that tons of people watching this do not know that you can quite literally push your teammates through boxes. When you both get someone weak, don't just sit there and spray the wall with no thought behind it. Get behind your teammate, walk forward as they're spraying, and it exploits the person through the wall, even if the other person's turbo build. Shout out to my guy OwlFN in this clip because he was screaming at me to get behind. Think about all your fighting, but in reverse. Lots of people think that you need to be holding the W key or holding going forward to be the best player in the world. Learn how to play defense, aka walk backwards and play the game at the same time. Think about fighting like this, and it will open up your mind to the best play style in the game, since it teaches you the correct way to counter someone who plays reckless. Game sense is learning rotates, heals, best places to farm mats, blinks for gliding out, cannon locations to fly across the map, boat spawns, car spawns. Just focus on the meta every season and learn these new things so that you can come back from being shambles if you ever had to disengage from a fight. These are things that pros, I'm not kidding you, will literally study with pen and paper so that they can force themselves to remember. Instead of swerving left and right, start quite literally jumping over players' POV during 50-50. It's a lot better than crouch spam. Straight jumping over and moving across the screen makes you insanely harder to hit because the average person has their character focused on the center of the screen, head level. So when you jump over or out of their POV, it makes you way harder to get shot. Game sense is being up to date on all the exploits, phasing techniques, and pre-placing piece control. For example, crouching up and down on the bottom left of a wall that phases stair inside, placing a stair above your head and exploiting in, throwing cones underneath someone's box, or quite literally just as simple as placing the flooring cone below someone's box to edit them down. These moves and other examples are strats that all pros are very up to date with to fight someone. The mantling ability has quite literally changed Fortnite build fighting to the max. I feel like I'm playing World War Z Zombies sometimes with the way that these Fortnite players are sneakily climbing over builds in build fight. This mechanic has drastically changed this aspect of fighting, and you should definitely try to implement this more as you're fighting people throughout any time in arena or pub. Just in general, you want to box fight sweats but pressure multiple walls before you really hone in on one. Run around the box, make yourself hard to hit, smack a bunch of stuff along the way to get builds one shot, and then fully commit to one wall. If you see a player doing this, sitting outside your box with their shotty out, never make any sort of edit on that guy. Against someone who knows what they're doing, you're gonna get pre-fired every single time. When you got boxed up and you got nothing in your box, and specifically there's a player holding their map out in front of you, don't make an edit on this either. All they do is plan to block you off with their own builds every single time. Instead, quickly place one of your own builds and then make the edit to go to shoot them so they can't do anything. Shout out to Martos for this. We know that the cow play works so well, but make sure when you throw it that you don't just place it on one wall, you place it on two walls. It covers way more distance and scares people that much more when you're doing it. The most simplistic game sense tip you're gonna get: turn on visual sound effects. I don't remember who, but I did see one person on TikTok talking about how they have a really expensive headset and they don't need visual sound effects. I promise you, no matter how expensive or good your headset is, turning on visual sound effects will still pick up things that you cannot hear. For example, if you use visual sound effects and someone's in a bush but you can't see them, by walking through the bush, you're gonna be able to be pointed in the right direction of where they are, and you can quite literally shoot blindfolded. As long as you're looking at the little wheel, you could shoot them. It makes your whole life way easier. I promise you, you should give it a real genuine chance. Game sense wise, here's something I can guarantee you that most people probably don't know. I was on stream testing out how well certain cars break build. I'm gonna share with you my knowledge. We're not talking with that cow attachment because we all know that it breaks literally everything you drive through. I heard somewhere that adding tires to your cars will make you do more damage to walls. I believe that it only depends on how fast you're actually going. As you can see in this clip, one wood wall slowed me down, and when I hit the brick, I wasn't able to go fully through it. Now, if I was going down a hill, had fast momentum, I would have easily cleared it. But just know, if you want to full send into somebody's box, make sure you're going over, I believe it's like 60 miles an hour before you can actually break through two walls. Also, besides the Lambo and the monster semi truck, the normal flatbed truck is the best at breaking build. When I tested out using tires, no tires, I got a whole bunch of random results. Sometimes I'd be doing the same thing. It would not break the wall. Sometimes it would go through two walls. Sometimes it wouldn't go through the first wall. If you're going at least 80 miles per hour in a Lambo, you're going to be able to break through the first two brick walls. Just remember, all depends on the speed. How many times have you and your friends been driving in a stacked game? You find a car for rotates, and then when they hop in, they break the windows. This is what saves you for an extra second because you need to break the window first in order to shoot the person. If you break any tires, any windows, use the repair tool to bring it back to normal. But it was weird, when I was doing it with the windows, you had to break the front windshield first in order to repair one of the driver or passenger side. Just know that you can completely restore the car unless it's been completely exploded. This is your POV. You killed someone, but none of your guns are reloaded. Turn on hold to swap first off in your settings. Swap the weapons on the ground for the ones you're holding, because the guns that are dropped are always reloaded. If I get pressured by a third party in insta, I'll swap the weapons on the ground so that I can get back into the fight even faster. You both exchange shots, but you get the wall in front of you. If you want to piece control the enemy, don't edit the wall. Place the cones above the box first, make them panic, then edit the wall, hold the angles, go for shots. It's the more improved way of box fighting. Really good ping players have the advantage of straight jumping into boxes. If you time it right, you can jump through with the gun or even pickaxe swinging and get in that way. Absolutely mastering this exploit right here will make you so much better at the game, if of course you're on low ping. Vice versa, high ping players should never be staying in one box while box fighting. You're asking to get your wall ripped. Instead, you should be trying to apply pressure to the point where you can use exploits to force yourself into boxes. In a nutshell, I get asked all the time, that's what I do. If you're enjoying the tips up to this point, consider dropping a sub, maybe using code KenBeans. All spawn game sense wise, it's more important to figure out where the enemy is compared to getting all this loot. In cups and events and stuff, I try to loot as quick as I can, and then I try to figure out where people are so I can see if they're trying to sneak around the edge and just be sly about it. Pros are super good at doing just this exactly because their route to looting is extremely fast. You're being chased, you use your launch pad, but you set it up like this. Never do it. If someone's chasing you and you have the time, set it up like this instead, because it breaks the pad as you're flying away. Or if you need to do a quicker version, you can place the stair, then the pad, fly away, and then you'll have to break the stair, set up a low launch, and that gives you a couple seconds to heal up. Carrying and throwing your teammate. In a build fight, I chuck them right off. They take no fall damage if I know that they're about to get thirsty. Or you could place the pad, pick them up, get them on your back, fly away with them, and then revive them once you hit ground. Shout out to an absolute legend again, Nick830, for this. He was making door edits specifically for the sole purpose for the other person to open it up first. It's super funny because most people fall into the trap, and when you're opening up the door, you get stuck in that animation so you can't shoot your gun right away. Super IQ strat. Sometimes the best edit in Fortnite is to not make a single edit. If you got players really weak, if the wall's not weak, you can reset it real quick and to make it weak and then shoot right through that. Or if it is weak already, you could just spray right through and get the kill either way. Works a ton. The easiest way to feel like you have gained some game sense in Fortnite is to do retakes, but to block your angle. Even if you're really crazy at the game, trying to figure out where the enemy is in relation to where you want to grab high ground from is one of the most challenging areas of Fortnite, at least to me, to get used to. Sometimes what I do in build fights is use this simple basic move, but it's actually used for something else other than getting height. It's a perfectly safe route to take. Sometimes I bust out one or two depending on where the enemy is. This way I can branch away from them and then do the retake that I want to get high ground. Simply throwing stairs over someone or placing a cone above their head is just a mediocre thing to do now in Fortnite. Anytime you ramp or build over someone's head, you need to get used to placing the floors almost right away at the same time. Looking at the right spot, you can claim both nowadays, and it helps you get really good piece control in fight. Fighting sweats in real games goes a little something like this. You piece and edit course each other until one person makes a mistake. If you're the one that gets cracked, you create separation, you use your mats, and you heal up until you're ready to go again. Look to play angles the whole fight and constantly remind yourself to have the most consistent crosshair placement possible. It's a constant repeat of that exact situation until someone gets killed. Having game sense, you need to know that it's still possible to spray through walls that are turbo built and go exploit through them, as well as using your pickaxe. Here's a clip of the GOAT, Mr. Savage, doing that exact play right here. In almost any given situation, things players do almost every single time they get a kill is they create at least one or more boxes around that loot just in case a third party shows up. Doing this is what gives you an entire box to play in with all your edits. I'm gonna be honest, most of it comes down to playing the game but tracking the opponent the entire time. Every single time you get into a fight, observe all the little things during it so that you can bring them into your next fight. Do that over and over and over, nothing will surprise you anymore. If you want good game sense, it mostly comes down to just tracking other people and learning what they do. Trust me, no matter who you are, including me, the second I got into a 50-50 with Jiven, he reset the wall really quickly, I shot, he shot me back. Practice resetting builds after you edit course someone or piece control them, and you'll be surprised how much this actually works. As you can see, Mr. Savage is still doing this in Chapter 3 Season 2. If you played Season 1 Chapter 3, you learned that piece controlling people has gotten to be a little less effective. The most common counter to getting box is to non-stop spray your SMG until you claim a wall back or do so much damage that it actually puts you in the advantage. As a player on either side of this, you need to know that. The smartest and best players in the world, if you watch them, they're extremely good at making it seem like 50-50s are 100s to 0s in their favor. There's millions and millions of ways of pressuring people in Fortnite, but what I found that makes them the most uncomfortable is to literally get up in their grill as fast as possible to SMG or pump them. I took all of Season 1 trying to learn how I can jump on players as fast as I can and learning the art of 50-50s to 100s to 0s. If you want to learn better awareness, game sense, try your best to do exactly that. You're going to learn when not to do it and when to do it. It's going to make you better. Let's get in some easy ones real quick. If you get a massive beam on a player at the start of a fight, you push with that health advantage every single time unless you're in a finals cash cup game and you're just doing it for search. If for some reason you're still fighting people in wood when you know you got other hard match, just stop doing that. Switch over to brick metal. That's the biggest mistake in Fortnite that most people make when they're starting out out especially. Watch pros how they're always using hard mats to fight people because it limits third parties and it's just better to box fight with. Third parties now more than ever has gotten the worst it has ever been compared to the last season. You got SMGs, you got tanks, and you got thermal ARs, and you got AKs that absolutely fry, and the AUG as well. If you haven't already, make it a habit to box around players you're fighting before you get completely involved in a fight, and you'll be in a way less situation to actually get shot by a third party. Not only is it safe, but it's also the best way to take a wall. Just like in this position right here, there's always a counter to it. When you get full lobby, do not just sit there and take it. Sometimes it really is inevitable, but you need to move and build and make tons of boxes. This is the most discouraging thing to a third partier when you see them boxing towards you in their direction, because now they have to shoot through like 3 builds in order to get shots on you. Rarely do you ever want to drop down from a build fight and chop to non-stop swing, swing, swing. Always be more aware of them dropping compared to you actually fully completing the chop. This is common knowledge on Fortnite right now. Anytime a wall is reset, you shoot it, you claim it back, or you use that time to jump in on the player's box. If you want to learn how to get better game sense in Fortnite Chapter 3, start forcing yourself to remember how you die more often and treat each death like an opportunity to remember other players' tendencies the next time you get into a fight. Loading on the game the next day, remembering how you died the previous day is one of the first things you do when you get onto creative to practice again. I'm gonna be honest, if I had to put my guess on it, I think that the most used edit in the game is this right here. In almost any situation besides maybe this one because the enemy can run right through your box, this is the best peak to line up for yourself as long as you jump to the left as you do it and reset as you're falling down. Anytime someone goes to rebox, the last wall that they're gonna place is the wall that they're leaving from. This means as the aggressor, if you see someone running away, look to claim that wall first, then you can run in on them, get the piece control, and kill them. Game sense, you're gonna learn how to be comfortable screwing up. Anytime you side jump and you don't get the high wall above you, you look to throw the stair in front of you, then cone, then you place the wall and you continue doing whatever. This is what I do anytime I mess up that high wall. If you want to keep good pressure up on Fortnite, you need to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable with not having all your guns reloaded. The second you start keeping track of what guns aren't reloaded and are, you're gonna be able to apply better pressure because you're always gonna be on their wall. I bet that there's tons of people on Fortnite who always go in the box fights, making sure every time they spray one clip, they always have it reloaded. Try experimenting doing just this, you're gonna wrap up fights faster. Now more than ever, recently I've been predicting where players are side jumping by mongrel classicing that side. Not only does it look really crazy in clips, but it's one of the fastest ways to really screw up someone's crosshair placement and make them panic. This is a small piece of advice for season 2 fight. I always go out of my way to place floors underneath people's feet in this situation right here and other situations across Fortnite when I'm build fighting. It screws up crosshair placement and hands down is one of the best ways to give yourself an edge in a 50-50. The best way to gain awareness and have the best game sense is to be the first person to touch ground or land at the spot you want. You need to learn your drop. Quite literally what I do is study the drop to figure out where, no matter what the battle bus is, I'll have the best drop to where I want to land. This is what increases your odds of winning by so much, and this is how pros land at the hottest places on the map and always come out on top because they have the best drop. Now if you're in Champs Division, chances are you don't really fall for this anymore, but this is a trick that still I see lower division players falling for. The fake out healing trick where you go to pop a mini and then you edit real quick and you take them off guard because they might have their pickaxe out. I'm almost positive that's still a strategy that some of you guys still fall for, but it's been in the game for so long. Even when Savage is outgunned and doesn't have a shotty, he only has an AR, but he still uses it to do window edits and shoot one bullet at a time. This sets him up for good peaks. Make sure he doesn't get one pump. This is just 300 IQ. Here's the biggest outplay that I learned from just playing the game. When you practically get full piece to get out of this position when you have none of the walls around you besides the one in front of you. I flip the ramp, the guy's underneath the stair now, and now I run through that wall, I reset everything, and on the way out, I make sure I place another stair above my head so that way I have 3 layers of protection. I do this all the time, and even when I'm completely full box, I just take the 50-50 chance, run right by the guy and get out the box. So on Fortnite, I do this thing whenever I want to edit stairs from far away through window edits. I take out my stair first, then look at the open space in the window edit, and I edit the stair however I want so that I can line up shots on the enemy easier. Small little unique thing I do when I really don't want to be close to that window when I make edits. Tip 69, if you made it this far, don't worry, I'm not here to troll you. If you hold your cone out, you see the lock symbol, someone is underneath that cone holding an edit. If it shows this symbol, they still could be in the cone, but they're not holding any edits. If you're an aggro player, listen up, this is a crazy high outplay. Everyone knows when you're in this spot right here that you're exploiting in on the guy. So as the person in the box, you're not really holding that wall because it's practically pointless. So the way I grab the wall easier is by setting up the plate but not jumping in, and I try to just grab the wall instead. This limits the 50-50 and helps me get the wall because the player in the box is probably thinking that I'm coming in no matter what. Relatively same thing with cars. If you ping it and there's only just a normal marker, then that means someone's inside. But if you ping it and you see the car symbol, then that means no one's inside. I don't know why I was late to this, but IO cars, they also have a truck as well that drive faster than the normal ones. I can't believe I didn't know that the IO had a truck as well. I don't know, some of you guys may find that useful. At random times in Fortnite, you're gonna catch yourself with an opportunity to place 2 builds at once instead of casually just going for one. Realizing when you can go for 2 pieces at once is a god tier move. I've been doing this move a ton recently on Fortnite. I have the wall that's mine with a cone, doesn't matter whose it is. I edit the wall entirely open just like this. I wait for them to shoot at nothing, then I pop out and I hit them with shots. When you take someone's wall, usually they stay deep in the box box, so that's why this works really well. If they're pressed up against it, don't even bother. If you know you're about to get sandwiched, you got a lot of people around you, let's say you get cracked and the guy who's pressuring you is non-stop trying to take your wall. Every time you box up, you can't get away from him. These are the type of players I just take a breather, I place the stair, and then I place the pad, I fly around, whatever I gotta do. Usually it's behind some sort of tree, I pop 2 minis and I get back into the fight, create more boxes, and do my thing. Don't be greedy with the pad and use it because you're gonna die with it. Real quick, listen up. If you want to know how to take walls, this is for you. If you drop down on a stair and you try to take the wall, if you don't get it on your first try, general rule of thumb, you want to hop off the wall and attack it from a different angle. Never sit on the stair for too long. You're gonna get cone, edited, piece, box, dead. Real quick, for people who don't know, but most people do by now in chapter 3, land in bushes, you take no fall damage. I jump right off builds all the time, go right in a bush, and I'm safe. I had to add this for the sake of the vid and game sense, but most people know it. Always look to completely pickaxe a wall with no regret if the person outside the box doesn't have a wall in front of them directly. Just like in this example, you can see my only focus is the wall closest to them so I can get piece control and get a quick shot. Anytime someone grabs a wall on you, you do one of two things. You run to the right hand side so it's a really awkward peek, or you get behind the cone and try and spray the wall and take it back. Whatever's closer, that's what you're gonna do. You get cracked, you crank up. What I do is place floors behind me as I crank. This is so important to block angles and give yourself a few extra seconds to figure out where they are. This is what people do across the board every time you're building. Even Savage in this scenario, you can see he does the same exact move but in a different spot. Okay, I'm taking off the glasses. Game sense is best obtained by straight just playing the game. Natural game sense of what to do in what situation, that's going to take longer to learn than it would be to just watch it and try to apply it. If you're not actively trying to practice the things you watch, just knowing it from watching it once is not going to be good enough. This video can most definitely serve as the first step, but the more you play, the more you'll be able to do without thinking. Even when you least expect it, no matter what it is, always expect people to jump right at you. Over the years of playing Fort, this is what I learned. This is the best play that even now, this is what trips a lot of decent and good players up. We're going to take a step away from the fighting aspect real quick. If a zone pulls max, if you want to play it safe, chances are the zone's going to keep pulling in that same direction. So in stack games, what you want to try and do is go as deep as possible so that you can have a good chance of getting the following zone. In moving zones and end games and stuff, the two most dominant spots to be in are either high ground or front side low. To some people, if you don't have height, they instantly target front side low. On the low ground though, you're going to have a way better chance of getting refreshes, but there's going to be way more shams people looking to just full send at your box. So you really just got to pick your poison. Moving zones are happening. Here's what you do. Always mark the left or right side of the storm because that's the general dead side. As you can see, Jivin TV is doing it here, and this is because there's no one in that spotted zone. It's literally in the storm, so of course it's going to be dead side. This is exactly where you want to be in comp. Just in general stat games on Fortnite, you rarely just want a white line just going straight into the zone. This could be the play sometimes, but usually I'll be in a way better position with less enemies if I wrap around the map or wrap around the zone and then find the dead side and then camp there. Sometimes comp games and all this stuff, it's better not to get max loot and position yourself in better spots on the map. These really good spots on mountains and stuff in really good games, they get taken early. It's the best spot for high elevation. No one's really going to come up there. You get good tags, you hold other players. Always try to be the first person in a really high elevation spot. Anytime I'm in a comp game, some sort of scrim, I always think about how many players are around me so I can consider my chances of other teams having a launch pad. Playing like this, I know it could seem a little risky, but thinking like this can really save the entire game and save you a drastic amount of map. For the sake of your mental health when you're playing Fortnite, rarely should you ever be focusing fights on the edge of zone. It's probably the best way to get both of your games griefed, and unless you absolutely need the refresh, that's the only time I would do it. Anytime you're in a comp match, be aware of your layer in general. If you're second height, you're going to get full sprayed, so if you're not going to do a height play, then don't even bother being second height because you're going to get completely full grief. If you want the best game sense in almost any meta on Fortnite, you need to study random spots around the map that have good metal, good chance of rotation items, community launch pads, rifts, campfire spots, fishing spots. Knowing that general game sense is probably the most important tip for comp players. If you want to play Fortnite, have fun with it, make fights easy, always try to count down 3, 2, 1s with your teammate. Don't be greedy to get too little shots on them when you could have knocked them completely. Even when I play casually with friends, we always do this because it just makes it more fun running through teams. If you're a beginner to comp, listen up real quick. Whenever you're tarping endgame, always look to block off the back of your tarp. Solos, you got to do it all by yourself. Duos, you can have the person help you that's with you, but every shambles person always looks to break in the full made tarps for them to reuse. They don't look to just reuse the tarp, they look to sneak in from the back and beam you too. I'd say the easiest, fastest way to get better game sense, you watch Fortnite pros, then you remember one thing they did and practice it the next day. So you take and you practice, take and practice. Before you know it, you're gonna have a little bit of each type of play that you watch in your own game. If you really have the worst game sense and you're brand new to Fort, what you got to do is watch pros, but not only just watch them, you need to ask yourself what you would do in X situation. Always ask yourself why they did blah 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 and form your own conclusion. That's a really good way. Even when I watch someone as casually watching friends, I always do this. It makes it more fun. It's like a little game inside the game. You want game sense? Almost every video I post has real game examples of said tip and trick that was in the video. If you scroll through any of my playlists or any of my videos, you can find certain topics with certain examples that have nothing but pure game sense in them. How many of you make this edit standing up, and how many of you make this edit when you're crouched? The further you are away from that box trying to take it and place the cone, you're gonna have to look steeper when you're standing up. When you're crouched, it's a lot easier to do this whole thing. Anytime you play Fortnite, you land at a drop, do your best to not take any damage from anything. The IO guard shooting you, taking fall damage. You don't want to do anything that forces you to take time to slow down, because the second you slow down, someone else has an advantage. It may not seem like that in normal arena games, and it probably doesn't matter, but in really good comp games and finals and all that stuff, that's what pros do all the time. Practice focus on learning where other players land in comp matches. Let's say I land at a random place. You need to know what players might have a loot route planned around that spot where I landed so that they don't get too close to you. It gives you the best idea about what players are around you and what loot might be taken by the time you get there. Probably know the epic a while back, couple months I'm pretty sure, was that moving zones now pull longer. Always try to use your biggest rotation items early on in those zones. Generally speaking, it's not always like this, right? But when you use the pad the first moving zone, you're gonna save a lot of mats because it's a bigger zone that's moving compared to the following one. That's a little strat I heard a pro say one time, and I was like, wait a minute, that makes sense. Seasoned comp players, what they do is they always just burn their wood rotating early, mid game. Wood is probably the easiest thing you can get back, so I'd recommend to not be stingy and don't conserve your wood as much as you might think, because you're gonna reform along the way. The second you get 500, you can burn some, because as you rotate throughout the zones, you're gonna be smacking stuff as you move. I definitely think that lots of players right now, they don't have drop maps for their landing spot. If you don't know what a drop map is, you essentially find someone on Twitter, or you can make one yourself. It's way harder though. When you deploy your glider at said place, you have a map with the best spots to deploy your glider to get the perfect drop every time. Instead of paying people on Twitter for one, you could look at the players who dropped around you and remember that spot next time, and you keep doing that, you'll find the best spot. But it's all based on how good you can remember it. Or when I get really lazy about it, I go on the landingtutorial.com, I plug in my drop and it tells me where to go, but it's not always accurate. Drop maps are super useful and you do want them, but how far do you want to go out of your way to make one or get one? Out of all the tips I mentioned, this is the best one that improved my competitive placement. Simply knowing where you want to land, but more important, you want to have multiple different routes that you take for after you leave your landing spot so that you can get repetition into your drop. When you get to that point, that's when you're going to be ready for the unexpected, and it's going to just make you play better. Game sense is really hard to learn, and lots of people have been asking me for this type of video. I tried to include lots of different things from all over areas of Fortnite. This is a guide you may have to watch more than once, but this is what I'm going to be telling people to watch when they ask me about game sense tips. Just like every other 100 tip video, these take so long to make. I spent a week non-stop putting in 12-hour days to try and get this done in a timely fashion. Drop a like, hit the sub button, comment, use code KenBeans. Also, click the link for buff down below. Check out the merch link down below too. I'm plugging everything at this point. I'll see you guys in the next video. Deuces. Peace.